This program has been approved for one IDCEC CEU. To receive credit for this program, please submit your full name, IDCEC number, program class code, and your summary essay to ceu@iida.org. The program class code is located alongside the title of this program on the IIDA Academy page. For a certificate of completion to use toward another certifying body, please submit the same information to ceu@iida.org. Thank you.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 2 of Collective Design. Today, we'll be talking about AI and future tech. Now, I'll hand it over to our fantastic moderator, Ryan Anderson, Vice President of Global Research and Insights at MillerKnoll.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, James. Sorry for the brief transition there, but I am so pleased to see all of you today. Thank you for joining this second episode of Collective Design. We're diving into a fascinating topic, the topic of new and emerging technologies and how those technologies affect the practice of interior design, but also the industry of interior design. As was mentioned, I'm Ryan. I lead the Global Research and Insights team at MillerKnoll. I also have the privilege of hosting our podcast, which is called About Place. And today I'm joining you from Toronto. I'm actually based in Michigan, but I'm here in Toronto at the opening of a new space. So exciting day all around, but I could not be more pleased to be a part of this particular session and to be joined by two outstanding experts who have agreed to share their insights with me and with all of you. So today I'm joined by Sarah Clair, Director of Technical Excellence for Interiors at HKS. And Rolando Mendoza, founder and president of Integrated Design Technology Solutions. Sarah and Rolando, welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good. Just want to make sure our connectivity is good. Great to see you both. Fascinating topic that we get to dive into today. Let's start with a little bit of an extended introduction of each of you. Maybe, Sarah, we can start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and why this topic of new and emerging technologies is one that you're passionate about?
Yes, so I am the Director of Technical Excellence at HKS for Interiors. And I have been a senior interior designer for a really long time. And I have always been drawn to technology and how to deliver our projects with technology, and always keeping in mind beauty and performance through all of these things, trying to do our very best work. Finding more time for design has always been something that's really, driven me. And then sharing what I've learned with others is something that I'm super passionate about. And so I actually get to do that every day now. I actually spend time mentoring and spreading our interior designers' knowledge through technology, the way we deliver our work, all throughout our offices at HKS. And I'm super happy to be able to do that every day, and also be here with you all to share some of that.
That is so cool. So your full-time gig is equipping other people.
That's right.
Which is, yeah. Well, speaking of beauty and performance, Rolando, let's hear a little bit about you and what you do and why this topic is so important to you.
Sure. Thank you, Ryan. And hi, Sarah, again. We did this last year together and it was wonderful. So my name is Rolando Mendoza, and I am the founder and principal of Integrated Design Technology Solutions. And we're a group of experts that are really looking at technology, from a state-of-the-art standpoint, and how these tools can really impact design and how we become more efficient. My role, has been really to help others and to help people, evolve their understanding of technology. I've considered myself as a thought leader at the intersection of architecture, construction, and digital transformation. And looking at those three vectors and how they converge and how they impact the business of design has really been my passion. This journey of mine started a long time ago, and it started with a 2x4, a 10-foot long 2x4 that was being used to test, facade systems in South Florida. And it seemed a really archaic way of simulating the physical environment in architecture. And so that was kind of how I started this journey, and always asking the question, is there a better way to do this? So really focusing on our ability to transfer tools and technology from other industries like aerospace and automotive. How did airplanes fly, and how do we make cars so efficient today? Why can't buildings and designs perform in the same way? And how can tools help us do that? So that's really my passion, is really bringing that level of innovation to organizations, to teams, to projects, and to individuals in our industry.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I also appreciate that with all of the hype right now, particularly around AI and other technologies, that this is a longer view, that both of you have been involved in thinking about these evolutions in terms of the tools we use and how technology can be more assistive and more helpful for a long time. It's easy, I think, particularly when we start reading articles about technology in the world, to talk about like big categories of technologies, but maybe we could just start by getting a little more specific, actually. Are there specific technologies that you see transforming interior design more than others? And if so, what impact are they having? Maybe Sarah, we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So every day we use Revit and Enscape, and really it's like the bread and butter for our interior design tools, for technology, and they are growing. Revit is really growing and growing very fast, but there's a couple other ones that we really look towards to really jump starting from those, and that's Dynamo for Revit, and Grasshopper, Rhino, and one of my favorites is Ulio. And I'm saying Dynamo because we've really started to discover its automation processes that can be had within Revit to find ways to do things not as manually before. Some things you can now do that were taking 3 weeks, and now you can do it in probably a couple hours. Just trying to find little things that, again, you can utilize technology for, and let it do the basic repetitive work, and then you'll find more time for design. And that's really what drives me. And in addition, the Grasshopper and Rhino, we're really trying to push our creativity and the use of different shapes and forms, and using tools like that. We really would like to see those used more, and then also to be able to understand how those shapes can be built. I mean, that's something that's really driving us right now. It's like, let's push our creativity and then push our innovation and performance with getting, something out of the ordinary designed and built. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Rolando, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think that, from my perspective, there's been a lot of focus on data-driven processes. One of the things that we've been focusing on is the amount of information that's created in the design process. And so our industry hasn't really done a good job of managing that. A lot of times, architects, designers are just dealing with the, real-time information, and it's just the present, and it's really reactive. And so things that I'm looking at are opportunities around these tools, are, the work that we do early on in the process in terms of conceptualizing and test fitting. Interior designers spend a lot of that early conceptualizing process optimizing the concept. And so there's a lot of really great tools out there that are really robust 3D platforms that can develop, three-dimensional solutions for ideas that interior designers have around forming a concept, such as Room Planner, and then more user-friendly platforms that are, really consumer-driven, things that are kind of like the Pinterest type of tools out there that enable designers to quickly put together a mood board, or, really start to look at a material palette, things like Home Styler, for example. And these are really cheap, easy entry, things that are out there that people are starting to develop. But I think, the test fitting process is really an opportunity where, interior designers and designers in general can really start to look at more, AI-driven type of workflows that can really inform, solutions.
Yeah, I'm curious for both of you, if you had to assess the effects that these technologies are having on the practice of design today, is it mostly about being more efficient, like doing what we would like to do, but in quicker ways? Or do you think the tools have yet allowed designers to unlock new levels of creativity or new types of design? Where are we at in that journey?
I think they're definitely helping. You're starting to use them in the effort to be more efficient, but at the same time, like I said earlier, like with that in mind, you're able to spend more time to be creative in some ways. In some ways, it's also helping you to be creative, but also it's finding that time. We're all constantly looking for that time, and this is helping in that way. And
Yeah,
depending on the software.
Exactly. Sorry to interrupt you. So in theory, the more efficient the tools allow us to get, the more we can spend our creative energies doing what maybe we enjoy the most, right?
That's right. And we'll be happier in our job. I mean, that's just how it is, right? It just makes it more fun.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing is more on the creative side. I think our ability to generate more ideas is where the entry point is. And I think that's important because that's what really excites people and gets them, excited about trying new tools. The whole conversation about productivity and efficiencies, I think that's more of a challenge, because we have our tried and true methods, we have the things that we're comfortable with. How do you begin to introduce these new tools and these new processes to truly be more productive? So I think it's right that right now it's really more about the inspirational aspect of these tools so that people can get excited about them. As we get more mature in using them and as we get a better understanding of how they can impact our workflows, I think we'll start to see more impact on productivity and efficiencies.
Oh, that's good. And Rolando, the examples you used it sounds like they're more like consumer-like, easily adopted technologies, not necessarily massively difficult to deploy enterprise systems, just tools that people are discovering and beginning to use more.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I would encourage people is to start playing around with these tools. They're easily accessible. They're really consumer driven. And I think it behooves us to not even at an individual level, if you haven't had a conversation with ChatGPT at this point, try it out.
Yeah, I agree. I spent a portion of my career specifically focused on technology and the workplace, and the term consumerization in the IT world is fairly well understood, that these kind of consumer technologies have displaced enterprise ones. But one of the things that you mentioned really resonates with me, which is a lot of times we adopt new technologies by playing with them, and it's tough. Like when you're suddenly given this big new tool set and given a deadline, like go use it. You kind of want to be able to experiment and goof up and goof off and kind of see how these things work before you really are pressured to deliver with them, right?
Absolutely. I think the concept of play and fun and joy has to be front and center in terms of how we engage with new tools. I mean, could you imagine giving your child a Lego set and then telling them, all right, you've got to make sure that all the white blocks are in one row, and you're running out of time, son, or I think we need to have that sort of childlike approach to the way that we use these tools.
That's right. I want to stress that. Like, I don't feel that you're going to learn really well from a course, where you're on your computer and trying to follow along or listen and absorb everything. This comes back to, like, let's be curious. Let's play. Let's use a project. Let's try it out. Like, you might fail and that's okay, but you tried, right? And then the next time around, you're going to be so much better, and you will have absorbed, that new technology, and you will have tried, and you will be, the next time you'll be even better at it. And that's just the way to do it. It's just baby steps, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so refreshing. And I would imagine many tuning in today are probably feeling a sense of relief as well, because having that kind of ability to more naturally adopt and play with technologies is so much safer. You're reminding me, years ago when I was leading research specifically for Herm Miller, we were working with Microsoft on a project, and we deployed Teams when Teams came out across Herm Miller. And I had this idea from a friend at Microsoft, but I created a fake team called Blackbriar because I love the Jason Bourne movies, invited a bunch of people to an hour-long go play in this. And they were like, what is this? It's not real. And I'm like, exactly. Just, create a document, post a GIF, do whatever you want, almost to the point where people got bored. Like, okay, we're good. And then using it was a whole different story than like, meet me in this. And I think we've seen similar things, haven't we, with Miro and Mural and all sorts of cool tools. But let's talk a little bit on that note about skills and skill development. I saw this quote from IBM a while back that was, AI probably won't replace you, but somebody who knows how to use AI tools might. So as you think of the skills or even mindset of interior designers, in order to stay relevant and productive, like what do you think designers should be focused on? Sarah, maybe we can start with you again.
Sure. Just going back to like generative AI, I would say the biggest thing is to still be creative, really enhance your storytelling skills. You've got to be able to write really descriptive prompts into these chats, and to actually get great output. And then you have to regenerate to get exactly what you want. And so it's super important to be creative in writing and being able to tell a story, be super descriptive, and use these same skills with our clients, right? To again tell that story, convey that great message that you're trying to convey with your design. That's how we do it already in the real world with our clients, is great storytelling skills. So that's really key. And we are the ones being creative with generative AI. It's a tool, and it's kind of regurgitating what it's found previously, and we need to keep that creativity and keep it going.
Yeah,
cool.
I totally agree with Sarah. I think being able to enhance our storytelling capabilities is really important. I mean, and if you think about it, as designers, a lot of us, before we put pen on paper, we have a narrative in our head, right? We're talking through, the look and feel, or what we're, describing to ourselves. And these are words that we're using internally. What these tools are giving us is the ability to have that conversation now externally and have, some output based on that input, which I think is phenomenal. I mean, that's such a magical place to be, where now we can be really descriptive about, our schematic design narrative, if you will, and get creative, in terms of, and think about all the front load work that we can do early on through that prompting capability and the storytelling. I think being better data analysts, now not being a data scientist, but really learning how to interpret and utilize data from various sources, and be able to be more explicit and analytical about space utilization and the data involved in that. I mean, we spend a lot of time doing that, on a day-to-day basis. How can we become more explicit about that? And then learn about AI and machine learning. There's a lot of really good courses out there that can demystify, the concepts, and really start to understand at a really high level, the basics of machine learning. When you hear that word, well, what does that really mean? Or when you hear, artificial intelligence, try to take the artificial out of it and focus on the intelligence aspect of it, and then understand that, how can these tools really enhance, our capabilities to be better storytellers, to be better designers, to be better visualizers. So those are the areas that I, at a high level, I would focus on.
Yeah, that resonates. It feels like there's so much hype about AI right now. I do think it was in large part because when ChatGPT and back when it was called Bard and other things suddenly became available, a lot of people were like, oh wait, this is AI, but it's been a longer trajectory. And I'm just curious whether both of you in the course of your jobs have to help people get beyond either just like the confusion of what some of these terms mean, or maybe it feels overwhelming. It sounds like a little bit of self-discovery, a little bit of education goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I'm sure Sarah experiences this. Our jobs are really to, I don't want to say dumbify, but simplify, almost like put together the cliff notes on what's rapidly evolving on a day-to-day basis, and be able to communicate that in real clear, simple, digestible concepts that people can get their heads around. As designers, we're multitasking. We're constantly like working on this and then working on that, but we don't do it simultaneously. If we're drawing, and then we stop, and then we have to have a conversation. Being able to pivot from state to state as a designer becomes really difficult. So I try to explain that technology, what technology does is enables us to be able to go through those transitions much more seamlessly or easier. And so it's more of an enabler than something that's going to replace our ability to be creative.
Awesome. That's great perspective. And I'm realizing that both of you, in terms of talking about those skills, started by focusing on things that designers are often inherently really good at. And I'm guessing that probably helps to build a degree of confidence. But I do need to come back to the topic of data analytics, because I don't know if this is true for most people in our audience today, but that one might stop some people in their tracks, because data science and data analytics feels overwhelming and confusing. But if I heard where you were going, Rolando, it sounds more about just trying to understand what the data might help us to know, or how to ask better questions with the data. I've seen some of this in our world with space utilization data. If you've got one room, as an example, that's used 34% of the time and another one that's used 48% of the time, it might not tell you that one is good or bad, but it certainly can help ask much better questions about why. Like, why are the patterns the way they are?
Yeah, I think that's the way that we should approach the whole concept of data and more data-driven decision. How do we become more informed in terms of all of the different aspects of the work that we do on a day-to-day basis? If we're developing a program in very structured Excel spreadsheet, pivot tables, columns, cells, how can we take that and then turn it into a test fit process with AI, so that we can just plug that into some AI driven process that could then generate a whole bunch of scenarios based on that data set that we've created. And so it's a really neat way for us to start thinking about data differently and not just as a spreadsheet.
Cool. Sarah, you had mentioned tools like Dynamo and Ulio and Grasshopper. Shout out, by the way, to our technology friends who are getting these names much more interesting than maybe they were 20 years ago. Are there technical skills as well that you find that you need to impart, or is it more just a matter of learning these user interfaces and getting comfortable with how they operate?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting used to them, getting in there, seeing what you can do, and just all you need to do is just start playing around with it and just taking one little task that you need to figure out, and just get in there and try. And usually, if you can't do it, others on the internet are able to help, or even around you in your firm. It's usually a team effort in learning, but as long as you get in there and try, that's the biggest thing. I wanted to add too something about the BIM models and data. I mean, there's so much now that you can put into our models. It's no longer 2D anymore. We're really, working in 3D, and everything that we put into the model is so important, not just how it looks in 2D, but how it portrays in 3D. So you can discover, look at it, in 3D, put on your, VR goggles, or even look at it in Ulio or Enscape, however it is. And then every piece can hold data within it. And that's like, you can understand the material data for each thing that's in the model, and then that begins to tell you more and more and more. And it doesn't have to be just looking at spreadsheets, because when you think of data, you think of spreadsheets. And it doesn't always have to be like that. You can use it for many things, and it goes on. So just want to throw in that.
Yeah, well, and I know that there's still this very strong aspiration to have those models behave as digital twins post-occupancy. So for those on the call that may not have heard that term, the idea is if these files are in fact accurate and well done and help with the constructability and delivery of a project, with all the various data sources coming into a building from the lighting system and the water cooler and everything else, someday I think a lot of people would imagine those files could be the model that helps to manage and really use those data sets to manage the building over time. I think technically we're probably close, if not there, but it's still something that most organizations aren't doing. So one more positive check for, getting that data right and being thorough on the front end to help our future selves and our clients in the future be able to use our work in important ways. I want to just do a quick time check. I'm going to probably ask another 10 minutes or so of questions that I've got for you. And then we've got questions that were submitted in advance, as well as some that are being submitted now. So I want to make sure we get to those as well. But Sarah, you mentioned VR, virtual reality. There's been talk about AR, augmented reality, MR, mixed reality. These are not really new tools. VR has been around for a long time. To what extent do you think that those kind of headsets or other visualization tools are impacting design, or how we communicate design in the design practices that you're seeing today? Do you mind if I pick that up with you, Sarah, and then Rolando, you can chime in?
Sure. Yes. So as far as virtual reality goes, I think that when putting on the goggles, I'm still seeing that it's relatively intimidating for some of our clients, and maybe even some of our, designers. But what's not as intimidating is to view these things on the screen and still see it in 3D and still be able to walk through it. And we're able to use that more as a tool to be able to work through all of the details, be able to walk through and see where materials start and stop, how to deal with their transitions. And, it's being used on the client side, then it's also being used on the design side. So I think it's very effective. And in addition, I know that some of our teams at HKS are even including in touch and feel exercises with VR, which is really interesting because they're basically developing these labs where the clients can come in and they actually have chairs or patient beds, certain pieces of equipment that you can, touch and feel and have, the headset on. So it feels more comforting and you can kind of test out the space as you go. And so I think that's, one of the next levels that we might start seeing out there. And it's just, it's simple.
It is, but I want to just acknowledge something you said. The business conditions have to be right for somebody to stick something on their face and start moving their hands around when they can't see who's looking at them. You can feel like a real idiot at times, right? So we have to somehow create safe environments where doing something like that feels like you're not totally out of the context of a business interaction. Exactly. Rolando, what are your thoughts? Are they nits? Are they a fad, or are they making an impact? What do you think?
It's interesting because early on, when it first started coming out, I was at Disney, and we had implemented, it was a cave system at the time. It wasn't the goggles, but it was, position located, and you were inside this sort of virtual environment that you kind of walked through. And I thought that offered much more effective interaction with the users because they can see the environment, they can kind of understand spatially where they were, and then they can turn around and have a feedback conversation with the design team. So they didn't feel so isolated as you would with a headset. With these new headsets, technology is really constraining you to kind of be sort of in your own little world, in your own metaverse. And I think that is a little bit disconcerting for some, to be, where am I and how does this feel? We've seen those videos of those, grandmas on the roller coaster and they're about to fall over. But I do think that there's got to be some hybrid between augmented reality and virtual reality, maybe going back to, a physical-based immersive experience where, you can enhance communication, you can touch and feel the things that are around you. I remember doing an exercise with one of the chefs in one of the Disney kitchens for a big industrial restaurant that we were designing for one of the parks, and he got into the whole thing, and he was like, "No, I think the dish washing thing should be here because I'm going to grab the pot," and he's gesturing, and then I'm going to go over here, and then I'm going to put it over on the stove, and then I think so. He was already triangulating and optimizing, space and where things were, and I thought that was really powerful. And so figuring out ways that we can go back to that. So that we can enhance the physical space and not be so isolated or dislocated from it. I think it does empower engagement from clients, and there's just a lot of opportunity to continue exploring that.
That makes sense to me. And I think that those examples where you're scenario modeling or you're actually trying to layer in what could an actual space be still offers, at least in theory, huge potential. In fact, when you were describing that about the chef at Disney, I immediately started thinking about that episode of The Bear. All of you Bear fans out there, where Carmi's trying to figure out how to lay out that kitchen to really time this right. I do think there's still so much opportunity. We've seen, in the world of furniture, AR is useful in terms of like dropping a generation chair, an Aeron chair into a space just to have a sense of how it might look in your home. But as far as like really looking at an actual physical environment and being able to layer on a digital layer to it in the space, I think there's still some room to go there, isn't there? At least that's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Well, let me shift to a little bit different topic, which is as we think about new tool sets, those things we've talked about and beyond, how do you think they'll affect our ability to deliver environmentally friendly, sustainable buildings that can really be good for the earth over time? Is there a relationship there between those tools and our ability to be sustainable? Rolando, do you want to kick us off on that one?
I think that's the low-hanging fruit. The biggest impact that all these tools are going to have is on our ability to design more sustainably, more integrated with nature and with our environment. Being able to simulate, environmental conditions, look at natural light, look at cross ventilation, really start to take a lot of the concepts that we've developed on certifications and LEED, for example, and WELL. The data's there, it's already structured. Now let's unleash that data and really start to leverage these tools so that they become more efficient in terms of how we design. So for me, it's really, that's where the holy, it's not even a holy grail. I think that's where we're at, and really encouraging people to think sustainably, not just geometrically or formally or from a beauty standpoint, but really from a sustainability aspect. If all design firms have a carbon neutral objective by 2030, there's only one way we're going to get there to carbon neutrality, is by using these tools. Otherwise, I mean, it takes 4 years to design a large scale building. We're in the year 2024. So if you started your building this year, you'll be opening it up in 2028, 2 years before you said you were going to be carbon neutral. So it's a tall order. So I think that we really don't have a choice. I mean, we've got to put in the work to use these tools more efficiently for that one objective.
Yeah, excellent. Sarah, thoughts?
Yeah, I can't agree more. It just being able to use the building analytics and all the data that's coming in from the model and everything that we're inputting into that, being able to lower our embodied carbon and understanding, is this material better than that material? And then, pair that with, all the materials in the building, and you've made better choices on, 75% of them. Think about the reduction that you're going to have, and to be able to see that in real time, in your model, and say to the client, we started out with these materials, and instead, because we've seen the data, we've replaced it with these materials, and this is why we need to use these materials for lowering our embodied carbon, better, sustainable, and healthy, environment for you and your clients. I mean, this is why, and it shows it all right there. I think it's very, very impactful.
Excellent. It's nice to have such techno optimism in that sense, for all the articles about how AI will someday kill us. The thought that it can help us to really improve life on Earth is promising, and I think within grasp, for sure. I'm turning my attention to some of the questions that we've gotten from our audience in advance of this session, as well as those being asked. There's a few around students and emerging designers and the sort of advice that maybe we would give somebody newer in their career or even a student. What are your thoughts in terms of how people that are new to the profession can best utilize new technology? And do you see different educational platforms or other tools coming around to help the industry adopt these tools in new ways? Either of you want to take a stab at that one?
Sarah?
Sure. Yeah, so
Voluntold.
yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, when you first come out of school, my advice is to, in your firm, take the initiative to, when you're on a project and you notice that there is a need for technology that you've heard of and you think it might help, talk about it with your team and give it a try. And it doesn't have to succeed, but you tried. And I think we've said it earlier. I think that's all it takes. And before you know it, you're going to know that specific technology, and you'll have tried it, and you'll have been better on your project team for that. And I think that's the best way. I think some people might get out of school and they might start on projects, and it's, crunch time for CDs, and, and you feel like you're on a deadline, and it's really hard to stop and think about something new. Like that's something that's probably the biggest, roadblock, right? Is that deadline that we have.
Billable
And
hours.
yes, the billable hours, it's so tough. And really, it's just, take a deep breath, pause, and see, like, what are you doing? What is your process? Does it make sense? Can you think about maybe using some type of technology to lessen that process and move on with something better? And a lot of times you can, and you just gotta take it one piece at a time.
Yeah, it feels to me like what you described not only is great advice for the designer who might be new in their career, but also those who are established in the practice or who are responsible for beginning to think about how design firms might begin to take a more kind of accelerated adoption of some of these tools. I guess I do kind of want to follow on to that because I know this is what you two do a lot. If you were to then kind of change the question and begin talking to, say, the principles of a design firm around what it looks like to adopt this, is there anything you'd change in that approach? Anything you'd add, or basically the same strategy?
No, I think, oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I think there's a huge opportunity, as Sarah mentioned, the constraints, especially for, new designers that are coming in and, they want to prove themselves, they want to do the right thing. And so they're eager to deliver. And so giving them the opportunity to speak up, to have a voice and to challenge and to say, why are we doing it this way? And these are, let's remember, this generation that's coming in are what we call the digital natives. These were the kids that were born with an iPad on their hands and interfacing with digital everything. And so they're very comfortable with the digital world. I think the challenge is when they come to more of the legacy type processes in our industry where they're now forced to do things that may not feel natural to them. And so how do we begin to kind of shift that? I think it's not the new designers. I think it's the more legacy organizations that need to start thinking about changing and giving more opportunities for the digital natives to explore and to to really expand their knowledge, the technical knowledge that's required to really deliver great projects. I also have a radical idea. There's a lot of discussion today about, well, why college? Why go into this protracted education as a designer into one of the Ivy League schools? Is there opportunity to just go to the trades? And I think that's a huge opportunity if you think about it, because if young people can go and spend a year or two working with the trades, like learning how to build stuff, how do you put together, how do you frame up an interior partition in an office space? How do how does drywall work? How does, what is a dropped ceiling? How does lighting get integrated into a drop ceiling? A lot of these things, they're kind of abstract when you're working in a model or in a drawing. If you have the ability to look at that in real life and get some trade experience, and then bring that back to the office, that would be, a fascinating. And then that really then could start to transform our industry, because then that adversarial role that the designer has with the builder, we can start breaking that silo down, right? Because the young people are the ones that are bridging both of these worlds, and they're like, yeah, of course, that's how you do it, and let's draw it like that.
Well, you got an amen, brother, in the chat. So clearly what you're saying is resonating. And I have to, I'll just add this anecdotally. I got a chance to meet this guy, Tom Standage, who's deputy director of The Economist recently. And I love his take on AI. He once said that generative AI is like having infinite number of interns, like a lot of horsepower, but you should probably check their work. Anyway, when asked about the skill set for somebody who would be really good using AI, he also added, think about hiring some gamers, because gamers are used to just flipping from one user interface to the other without a lot of training and getting used to it. So your suggestion of get close to the trades, along with somebody with the versatility to maybe adopt some new software, I'm with you. I think that is a provocative and powerful combination.
Ryan, can I add a little bit something to that?
Please.
Yeah, so I just want to add to, working with contractors and manufacturers and fabricators. A lot of people are asking, well, if I'm going to be designing these complex shapes and forms and really becoming more creative, how do I get that built? And we believe that maybe there's more partnerships with these outside manufacturers, contractors, fabricators, working alongside them, because they are experts in how these materials come together, how, what sizes their materials come in, what it can and cannot do. I mean, fabulous experts. And if we partner more with them early on, maybe even work with them in their drawings, maybe there's a little bit of assisting back and forth with the drawing in 3D and the model. And at the end of the day, maybe we are submitting our drawings, not only in 2D, but in 3D. And working hand in hand with that fabricator. At the end of the day, we will be able to submit our drawings in 3D, have less RFIs and questions, review less submittals, because we have already done that in the past. And the project is better for it at the end. And we can't stress enough how important it is to have those partners on your side.
That makes sense to me. And once again, reinforces the collaborative nature of how we want design to evolve, isn't it? That is awesome. I see 2 or 3 questions related to generative design in the furniture industry. So I guess I will field that briefly, but I'll start by saying, oh my goodness, is it multifaceted how AI and generative design as being one form of it is impacting our world. Everything from using advanced technologies for quality assurance to make sure that what comes off the line is exactly what was ordered, to thinking about how we apply furniture differently. At Herman Miller, we started working with Autodesk using their generative design platform. I think 2017, 2018, have been using it for years. And then because I lead research, I'll just tell you that the number of AI-enabled tools to help with research has been amazing, but we are often quite, we were reminded and we're quite cognizant of the fact that many of the AI tools that are out there do pose a little bit of a challenge as far as intellectual property. So when you're dealing with confidential information, don't go dump it into ChatGPT. You're basically putting it out there for the world. So it's certainly affecting our industry. We've been working on these sort of solutions for a really long time. They don't always maybe share as much as we should, but it's impacting our world as well. I want to circle back to one question that was asked early in the chat, which is around these new and emerging tools. They're helping us be more efficient and more creative, but they actually help ensure that these spaces are more easily constructed and delivered, and that the resulting space is a quality solution. How do you feel about the effectiveness of the tools in terms of constructability and delivery? Either of you have a thought?
I have a lot of passion around that question, because one has to ask themselves. I think a better question is, how intelligent can our process be to get to a better quality product? And what I would argue is, these tools it's this notion of collective intelligence. So it's not that the AI is going to be more intelligent than the designer, or the designer is going to be more intuitive than the AI. I think what's important is that we think of these things as collective intelligence. So there's things that we as designers are going to bring to the table, and then things that the AI is going to assist us in. And so we'll get to those things faster. We'll iterate more effectively. We'll communicate and collaborate, in a more productive way, and that in turn will hopefully give us the ability to produce better designs. But I don't think the AI or the tools are the ones that are going to guarantee that. I think that's where the intelligence and the intuition of the designer really comes in. And so I would encourage everyone to keep that as a perspective. We don't want to get lazy and hit the easy button and have this thing, mid-journey our interior designs. They're just starting points. They're just inspirational nuggets that then take us to places that maybe we didn't think. We're not all Frank Gehry, so we have to look for assistance in many ways.
Yeah, enhanced cognition, not replacing the designer, just more powerful tools in the hands of the designer.
Yeah.
I like the collective intelligence on collective design theme that you were going with there. I do want to be mindful of time. I'm going to ask you each one final question, but I'll ask you to keep your responses kind of tight. And that is, if you were to go out for a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with a friend who was a principal of a design firm who said, what's one thing I can do to get us a little farther along in terms of using new and improved technologies, how would you react? What would you respond? Sarah, I'm putting you on the spot, but can I start with you? Since you both do this for a living.
Yeah. If I guess one thing would be, just pick anything and just do it. Just do it. Like right now. Like don't put it off. Just go for it and see where you end up. And just try. Find that one area that you want to focus on and just go. And that's what I would say. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Just find something and do it.
Yeah. Don't wait for some master AI strategy to be delivered to the industry, but get in there and begin trying it, playing, and piloting. That makes sense to me. Rolando, what are your thoughts?
Experiment, give people the opportunity to explore using ChatGPT, using Midjourney, sign up for the enterprise agreement so that people aren't paying the $20 a month on their own. Give those tools an opportunity to inspire people, to think about, what these, because we're creative and we're going to figure it out. I've seen some great designers take these tools to places that we never imagined, and then they come back and they teach us. They tell us, I discovered this, and I was able to do that. So give your designers these tools and unleash them, because when you unleash the power of design, it's really, a lot of magic happens, and a lot of interesting results will begin to kind of come to the surface. And then also, keep that human-centric focus. all of this stuff is really about, people, and designers have to focus on the human experience, and we do. And so as long as we stay focused on that, all of this stuff is gonna serve us well.
Awesome. Great closing words. In a moment, those of you that are seeking CEU credit will be able to scan the QR code that's going to come on the screen. But first, I want to give a big thank you to both you, Sarah, and Rolando. And for those in the audience, feel free to type your thanks, your praise in the chat. We know that you're experts in this. This is what you do, and that you're being generous in sharing these insights to create a better industry and a better world. I want to thank IIDA for this fantastic series. Thank you for letting us all be a part of it. And most of all, thank you to all of you who have spent time today. Please tune into future episodes of the series, and we appreciate the time you've given us today. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.